Hi,
So,
everyone, and welcome to episode 57 of the ITSM Crowd. I'm really excited about this one because we are going to be talking about a new book which is being published incrementally. I think the version I've got will not be the final version, but I've got both the authors here to talk about some of the principles and the concepts in this book. So I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves. So, Cherry, if I can come to you first, please, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
hello everybody. I'm Cherry Vu. I'm from Vietnam. So I speak Vietnamese better than English. So my background, I have a lot of degrees, so I shouldn't mention about it. But I did quite a bit in the business field, and
Mm-hmm.
so my background mostly is about leadership, uh, public management, public policy, and so now with the Rob England, I mostly focus on agile enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, working with C levels throughout. Yes, so by myself.
Brilliant, thank you. And your English is certainly better than my Vietnamese, so I'm
and,
grateful that we can do it in that
and mine.
language. And Rob, if we can come to you then, please.
Well, good day, everyone. Yes, I'm Rob England. So I do come from the ITSM world, as most of you know, but I've been on a bit of a journey through IT management and governance. And then Cherry and I teaming up in life and work, we call ourselves Teal Unicorn. And with Cherry's business focus and my understanding of new ways of working in the IT world, especially DevOps, we've sort of seemed to have made a good combination to take us into new areas. So now we pursue work at the enterprise level, and we have our clients in Vietnam, nothing to do with IT. They're organizational clients, whereas I'm still continuing to work here in Wellington. So in Vietnam, Cherry leads and I follow, and in New Zealand, I lead and Cherry follows. And so most of my clients here are still IT folk for now.
Fantastic, thank you. My name's Claire Agata. I'm going to be the host for today's session. We are watching Twitter for any questions that you might have if you're watching this live. So if you've got a question that you want to ask Rob and Cherry, pop it on Twitter using the hashtag ITSM Crowd. We will pick that up during the broadcast. But our subject today is this book, the Agile Manager with a small a. So I guess Rob and Cherry, coming to you first, just tell us a little bit about what's driven you to write this book.
So when it's very interesting that when we start the journey, we think like we try to search a lot of books around us to see if there's something to do with to help the managers to go with the journey. And it's interesting enough that we couldn't find much. I mean, it's not so many books that focus on how to help people to get there, to transform themselves from the traditional way of working to agile ways of working. So that's motivated us to write the book.
It did. And I guess in the process of researching the book, we found a few things, and we went on our own journey. And but even the things we found, we feel like there's this gap for the management layer. So the agilistas have talked before about the permafrost, the frozen layer in the middle that sometimes can be really difficult to move. A certain subset of middle managers can be very conservative and resist change. And so trying to find books that talk specifically about how managers can be agile yeah, there wasn't a lot. So you've got the early version of the book, Claire. We used this weird incremental approach where we sold the draft. So bless you.
Now it's a version 7 something already.
Oh wow, I've got 3.3.
Yeah. So I would have sent it to you, but you beat me to it. Thank you. This is version 7.
Wow.
So it is significantly expanded in the interim. In fact, it's double the size, which is good and bad, because I always try to write. The goal used to be 50-page books, never a book over 50 pages. And basic service management, of which you're quite familiar, was limited to 50 pages. But this is blown out to 320. So there goes that strategy.
It's all Rob England's fault, I stopped long ago.
It's agile but not lean, maybe.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We try to make minimum variables the products, but now it's maximum. It's become maximum.
So for people who are thinking, okay, I know agile is a software development practice. What's the evolution now into the agile manager?
So we were inspired by, I think, a lot by Steve Denning, who's a journalist in Forbes, and he wrote the book, The Age of Agile. And he called out very strongly how agile has escaped IT and is being picked up as a philosophy or an approach at the enterprise level. And organizations are starting to declare themselves agile enterprise with varying levels of success. And that resonated with our experience in Vietnam with our first client there, which Jerry can tell us about.
He kicked the ball to me. So at the beginnings, my clients called me and asked me, like, Jerry, please come to help me. Because I said, what do you want? Oh, I want to make our people happy. I said, oh, well, that's a tough question, but let me try. And we never done any happiness programs. So we think about maybe we think about making a happiness program and see if we can apply it to our clients situation. But then after sometimes I spend like 2 months talking to their people from the lowest level to the highest level, and from the best practitioners to the worst one. And I come to realize that it's not about people, it's about the system. So the people who all come to work with the best the best intention are willing. They're willing to be the best, and they're willing to work. They are very hardworking people, but then at the end of the day, they can't complete their work. Nobody's success. Nobody's happy. Nobody. The environment is just so sad. Nobody's happy. And then I said to my clients, say, look, it's nothing to do with people. Can we all get together with at CEO's level, executive level, and then I would like to have a workshop with them and see what's going on. And then so we work down through the C level, and then the management level, and then the workers as a team. And then we find out a lot of things. And so the whole story is just to remove a lot of constraints in the system. It's like approvals process, and a lot of approvals, a lot of signatures throughout the system. And then we remove it, and we also change the way to give money to the teams, change the way to go, and also change the way to evaluate people. So everyone's get change very fast, and people happier and happier every day when they see the small change. And yeah, that's a lot going on, and also, there also a lot of things to do. But the situation is that the CEO, the old CEO, just got retirement, so we are waiting for the new CEO to see what's going on with him, and Rob said that we need like 3 or 6 months to wait to for the new CEO start acting, doing something.
The interesting insight in all of that was the final key piece was that it's the system. So don't blame the people, blame the system. And then when you look at, well, okay, so how do you change the system? And the key to changing the system is it's the managers. It's the managers who set the system. And so the work that Cherry did, none of it was getting the workers at the lowest level to figure out how to do the money differently. It was, or the approval chains differently. It was getting the managers to agree to different approval chains and different financial constructs and so on. And they were, some of them, not all, but some of them were very resistant to that because middle managers tend to be conservative people. They're risk averse. That's their job. They're there to be risk averse. And so that was the key to the puzzle. And once we had that insight, I look back on so many transformations that I've been involved in the past, and especially ITIL projects, and so many that didn't succeed. And to me, the common thread in so many of them didn't succeed was we told the people to do different work, but we didn't necessarily change the management and the way they managed the work. So, and I saw that with DevOps as well, we told them to do the DevOps and they're not doing the DevOps. Or we told them to be agile, they're not being agile. What's wrong with them?
It was one of the things that I liked when I was reading the version of the book that I've got, is that the focus is on management rather than leadership, because I think we've come to kind of fetishize leadership. We hold up people like Steve Jobs as being the single success factor in the organization, but in fact, like you say, it's the managers who quite often do the work and control the system.
And you get people like there's a guy here in New Zealand who gets a few mentions in the book, is Davy Olivier, who is a powerful leader and who came in and transformed one of the big banks here in the space of 12 months, right? So we need the leaders. They have a role, but you're quite right. They're very distinct from managers. They're different animals. And people blur the two and talk about leaders and managers as distinct things. And really, we should be having quite separate thoughts. So we're even considering that if after this book we're silly enough to try another one, that we would write the Agile Leader as a quite separate book, because you're right, with different disciplines, different considerations.
And I also think that the leaders is very, very important in terms of making things happen, because if they are not a good sponsor, or they don't want to spawn the change, then nothing happen. So they are just they need to have a bigger vision and things so different to make it happen. Otherwise, nothing can be done.
But usually quite often we've got the top bit, and quite often we've got the bottom bit. People are keen, like you said, one of my clients here, the guy I was working with, said we've lit a grass fire. So people were so ready, the place was tinder dry, that at the work level we just had to talk about the stuff, and woof, and Kanbans everywhere, And middle bit.
No, but also when we got invited from potential clients, one requirement we always say is that if your CEO don't want to see us, then we don't want to work with you.
Okay.
Because there's no point to persuade them if they don't get it. So this is very hard.
Yeah.
You know, because the transformation itself is hard enough. So you have to, if the leaders, they don't get it, then you have to fight with them to do what you have to do. It's so tough. You know, I just don't know.
And the same with DevOps. So when I'm working on DevOps in an organization, if the CIO won't meet with me on a regular basis, same thing. It's like, you know, this isn't going to happen. So that top piece is key. We talk in the book about a model of you can be in an exploratory mode for quite a long time without that upper mandate. You can do a lot of stuff guerrilla and exploratory and get for years even and develop a lot of capability and knowledge. And that's fine. And you can run along at the lowest level with a few supportive managers. But then at some point, you need that top level support. You need that visionary leader to say, yeah, I'm going to mandate this. Let's go. And then the problem is the middle bit, the managers.
Yeah. So talk to us about a few of the kind of the key concepts from the book. I know it's difficult because it's grown significantly, but what will people find in there?
So we haven't really expanded, we haven't really added too much more. The one thing we've added since the version you've got is talking about open leadership and open culture, which is a tribe in its own right, who drive off originally the open space mentality. And now there's a whole community talking about invitational leadership and open space agility.
I think the key there's a lot of principles that we mentioned in the books but mostly we would encourage people to empower people, free people to let them be their best. That's the key. And in order to do that, and in order to do that, you have to have a huge level of trust. If you don't trust your people, then nobody trusts you. And then if you don't trust people, then you can't let them go. That's the thing. You know.
So we talk about we talk about the journey. So at the highest conceptual level, we talk about human systems agility. So all the ideas, we group them up into 3 clusters. Human stuff, like Cherry's saying about trying to introduce some humanity back into work. And then we talk about system stuff, which people will be a bit more familiar with around how we change the system and agile ways of working and lean and so on. And then agility, the principles of being ready to change and creating iterative, incremental, exploratory work that is constantly adjusting and changing. And so those are the 3 big high-level principles. And then we talk about how to get there. So we talk about the sort of machines, as we call it, that we've set up within organizations to drive us there. Because, you know, if you say to people, oh, you need trust, as Cherry says, their first reaction is, well, we don't, so we can't, you know. It's like no, you know, we start here and we go there, you know. And so we talk about incremental advancement and ways to move forward. We're trying to stop using the transformation word, although it becomes a habit, very hard not to.
Yeah.
Because it kind of implies a fairy godmother, you know, and then you're all transformed.
Yeah, and then you're finished. There's nothing else to do.
So also people along the way, it's so easy for them to lose their patience. It's just so easy for even the worker and the manager. And when crisis or the difficulties, the difficult situations happen, then they tend to go back to their behavior. And it's really tough to, you know, to pull them back. Oh my God. It's I think if we understand the process we have to go and the journey that we have to go, then they will be better, because they're not freaking out like, oh, we we lost or in the middle of the way, or they feel like they go to nowhere, or that's need a lot of encouragement to go together, and together we could go.
Yeah. So an important message that seems to work with people is, in IT especially, but other areas too, I'm sure, we can be very perfectionist, and we measure ourselves against perfect, and then we're sad about it. And so we always try and coach people, plan and strategize looking forward, but measure looking backwards. Look at where you've come from. Because if you try and measure looking at the star you're sailing towards, you'll always be sad, because you're always going to be a long, long way from it.
Yeah.
But if you look at your wake, you go, oh my God, look how far we've come in a year. And so plan forwards, measure backwards.
And like the very obvious example that Rob can reduce almost 20 kilos for 2 years. So imagine how hard it could be. But if he's still not happy with his weight at the moment, then see how you was 2 years ago. That's a good example.
Oh, good. I'll stop worrying then. Yeah. No, plan forwards, measure backwards. I'm still going to lose a bit more.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of organisations at the moment who are in this digital transformation headspace, and that's the strategy, rightly or wrongly, that's the kind of the C-level priority. So do you see kind of a role for agile management in helping organizations with things like digital transformation?
Absolutely. Did you see my face darken when you said digital transformation?
I know it's such it's one of those things where you look at the words, and the words are not satisfactory, but unfortunately it's too late to try and
I think change is enabled by the technology. The technology is responsible for the fact that one of the deepest underlying principles that drives all of this is that change is now the state. So change is not something that happens occasionally. You're stable, then you change, then you're stable, then you change. That ceased to be true decades ago. And now in all work, change is the state. We're changing all the time, and everything, the way we work, the technology, everything's changing all the time. And so digital is one of the primary causes of that. But when we call it digital transformation, that implies that the technology will drive the transformation.
Yeah.
Whereas, of course, it won't, right? It's systems, people, process, technology in that order. And just introducing new digital technologies isn't going to change anything, even though it's the primary factor for the acceleration in society. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, one of the bits of the book that I looked at and thought, yes, this is something I'm hearing quite a lot about, is this, project versus product sort of conversation. And for me, a lot of digital transformation is this idea of product teams. We don't have IT doing IT things and business doing business things anymore. If we focus on product teams, then we get the people and the technology together.
That's so true.
But yeah, I agree with you on digital transformation. It's unsatisfactory.
I would love to call it word salad.
Word salad.
You know what? I was invited to talk about digital transformation in Vietnam. I just refuse it, because I think it's no point to. I mean, we're not.
It just means everything to everyone and nothing to anyone. It has become so debased as a term. But I think that these ideas work powerfully in digital transformation because it has to be highly agile. It is about rapidly changing all the time. It is absolutely about agility. So they work there, but they equally work when our client is a garment manufacturer. You know, they use technology. They have CAD cutting machines and things, but really they're very much a labor-intensive industry and a very old school factory. We did a lot of lean work, with classic factory lean work with them, with our good friend James McNee from New Zealand here, and transformed the factory flow. So they're very old school. And yet these ideas are just as powerful and impactful to them as they are at Westpac Bank here, which did the wonderful transformation of how they work, which was very much digital. I mean, that was about the digital part of the bank, you know.
So for people who are thinking, I'm going to read that book, what are the kind of the key benefits that they could expect, you know, for an organisation, for an individual, when they've read through the book? What's the change for them, or what would you like the change to be?
So we would love them to understand some of the principles that the manager should understand. At least if you know, when they read the book, they may think that they have to change the way they manage. That's what we hope. And so also, if they get, you know, further, there will be the way for them to lead or to manage the change in the organization. Even even though it's just for the beginning, they just change the team, then it's good enough, because we, you know, it's a long way, and it's also, there's a lot of the idea underneath the principle that they have to unpack it to understand it before they can do some practice and train themselves. So, as I often say, that it's just hard like doing yoga. You get it, you know how benefit you can get, but still everyday training and everyday doing the same thing until you don't feel hurt anymore. So that's tough, but that's what we hope.
I think at a very minimum, if even the most conservative managers get out of the way.
Yes.
So I remember that old Bob Dylan line, you know, sentences, you know, get out of the way if you don't understand, because the times there are changing. You know, at a very minimum, if the most conservative managers will, at least when other people are doing these things, they'll go, oh yeah, at least I've heard about that and it might make some sense, and they're not just on drugs or something. And so not have that immediate, I have to shut this down reaction, which we meet managers just like, well, this has to stop, you know. So at the very minimum, if we can prevent that reaction, and then at the other extreme, at the very maximum, this is the future. This is what management is now. You know, William Burroughs or whoever it was says, you know, the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed. This Cherry says, this is the future. This is the new way of working. It's not a new way of working, or maybe a new way. This is the new way of working. And so for career development, everybody to varying degrees needs to get their head around this and get on board it, because this is where it's going. This is the future of management.
Yeah, and I always say that everyone deserves to be happy, either at work or at home or everywhere, you know. But why there's a lot of bad relationship, especially at work. So if the managers get the ideas, get some principle, then they have to fix the broken relationship at work. So I think that people's life will be much better. That's what we hope, and what actually that's what actually we've done with some clients, and we see that people's lives have been changing. So that's what make us happy, is that people's lives better.
That sounds good to me. And just we're coming to the end of our time, so just before we close this discussion off, the book obviously is available via various good outlets. Do you know when the final publication date is going to be?
My best assistant ever is reading the last version at the moment. So
so don't buy that one, because This one will be out. I promised it at Christmas, and then I promised it at Easter.
No. So, next 2 more weeks. How's that?
Yeah. Well, we're going to Vietnam for 3 weeks, and my job in Vietnam is I just have to make the projector work. So you kind of hope that I'll have a bit of spare time while Cherry's doing all the hard work there.
Sounds good. And where else can people learn a little bit more about both of you and what you're doing? Is there any other books or websites that you'd like to point people to?
Oh, we'll put one in the blog to twohills.co.nz, which is us, and we'll put some links in there to learn more about the book. And we're putting, of course, a lot of the theory behind the book that we've developed. We're putting all that out in the public domain as well, so that's on the website.
It's both in Vietnamese and English as well, so Vietnamese people can read the books as well.
Yes. We're coming out with the Vietnamese version as well as the English. That's exciting.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for guesting today. The book, the version I have, is excellent. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. I am looking forward to seeing the final version as well, but it's been really good to hear from you both, and just learn a little bit more about this agile small A management concept. So we will put the blog out with some extra links, so keep an eye on our ITSM Zone Twitter channel for that, and I will see you on the next episode of the ITSM Crowd. Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you so much. Bye.